Hello, everybody. My name's James, and welcome to the Planet FPL Fan View, where I welcome one of our correspondents onto the podcast to discuss current matters on their club. Now, it was meant to be the Clayton and James show today, but then there was some big news out of Old Trafford on Monday. Let me introduce you to our Manchester United correspondent, it's Gary Robinson. How are you, Gary?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. And people have heard you previously will know that you were probably, I'm going to say anti, but you were prepared for Ten Hag to go at any point. And I'm going to guess not disappointed at Monday's news.
No, not disappointed. A bit surprised at the timing of it. But yeah, I think just a bit of relief and a bit that it's finally happened, and maybe a bit of frustration, like I say, at the timing, because I think we all knew in the summer that this was where it was going to end up, and it was always going to only need a couple of bad results in these first 10, 11 matches, and he was going to be under too much pressure, and it was so obvious that was where he was. And if you looked at the fixture list, it was obvious that the potential for that was there. So yeah, but it's done now. Probably the best for everyone involved. Um, and yeah, that was
It,
just
it,
finally
it did
done.
still feel like a shock to me, though, when that news came through on Monday morning. I think maybe it was a little bit of after the game that obviously your team and my team had against each other. I was like, yeah, that's it. He's finished. And okay, they're going to carry on. And then there was some more car crashes in there, blowing the 2-0 lead in Porto, which got masked by the late goal. Playing Matt's Rowie at 10 position last week. I'm not seeing it, Gary. Was that good?
Not especially. No, I mean, not the player's fault at all. He did his best. He tried. He wasn't
But it
he,
almost got
he
to the
wasn't
point that
appalling, but yeah.
I'd almost overlooked that you're 14th in the league and you're not going to stay there. But I'd almost thought they're not going to do anything about it here. They'll look at the fixtures coming up and think there's a chance. But you've already laid it the other way round, haven't you? And gone, right, well, there's a chance to have a bounce with some incredible fixtures on the horizon, right?
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, that's the chance now. Hopefully that the new manager or managers, if it ends up being an interim and then a new one, that they can take advantage of that and get some good results under the belt, and and get a bit of momentum going. But um, again, they could have been looking to do that at the start of the season and not find themselves 14th before they ran into these good results.
What was your reaction when you saw the news Monday morning? What was your first
I
thing that
was
come to mind?
I was shocked. Yeah, I seen it. Couple of people messaged, and I thought, I thought it was a spoof one, or I thought it. Even though I wasn't, even though it's a good, he needed to go. There's been so many more obvious opportunities or more obvious reasons or results where you'd have thought this is the end now. I can think of 4 or 5 last season, the Champions League exit, some of the cup exits, um, the way the league, I know it had been unlikely, but even that Crystal Palace game, sort of May last season, when you thought, that was a 4-0 away. There's been so many, the Liverpool 7-0, been so many big seismic results that he's survived through that you just, a loss 2-1 to West Ham due to you know,
You can
a
say it
genius.
was a dodgy decision,
Uh,
Gary. You can say it.
well, I think dodgy is an understatement. It's
Yeah.
a bizarre for VAR to get involved there. It just seemed like, so. The only thing I can think of is that they've had a nudge from whoever they want, presumably Amorim, that this, he was the stars of the line, as it were, and they've just decided to pull the trigger. But yeah, um, yeah, all very odd timing. But like
Yeah,
I
I
say, it's
guess
finally
there's
done now.
and I probably wallowing in my own self-pity of how bad my own team was on Sunday and having not
Mhm.
watched the game, and also hearing clear reports that actually you were unlucky, the VAR decision, and you should have been a couple up at half time as well. Actually, they've been a bit unlucky there. And actually, ironically, although there was so much said about statistics last year in terms of particularly the amount of efforts you were conceding on goal, like you've been massively underperforming your XG. so far this season. So there was almost an element in terms of your actual output that you had been a little bit unlucky so far this season. We caveat that by still saying not what Manchester United fans should be expecting, but an underperformance of what that expectation was. Clearly, with what was it, eight goals scored? Is it so far this
Yeah,
season? I mean, that's incredible.
yeah, but I mean that's I don't know how much that's actually Ten Hag's fault in that sense because we're creating good
That's what I'm
chances, we're
saying.
just not taking them. So yeah, it just and you could probably argue a few the Brighton result conceded last minute, but probably should have been ahead. The Spurs game we were dreadful, but if Fernandez doesn't get sent off and it stays 1-0, you don't know what that turns into in the second half. Obviously, the West Ham game. So there's a third of your league games where you go, I've been quite unlucky there. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. But I suppose I think that this is it. This was always going to come that he didn't have enough credit in the bank from his previous two seasons, certainly his league performance. Because he didn't have that in the bank, it wasn't going to take much this season. Whether he was unlucky or injuries or whatever it was the noise was just going to get too much at some point, and it looks like it's finally tipped.
How will he be remembered by United fans?
Um, Probably the further away we get from him, the better he'll be remembered. I think because
He's won trophies.
uh, yeah, because in 10 years' time, probably no, unless someone does a deep dive on him, no one's going to remember. Oh yeah, he finished eighth, and you know, in his second season. I mean, he finished third in his first season, so that's a decent enough achievement. No one's really going to remember where he was when he left. I can't remember where Mourinho was when he sacked him. I can't remember where Solskjaer was. You just know things weren't going well. What will be remembered is that cup run last season, beating Newcastle the year before, the Barcelona game at Old Trafford. So I think the further away we get from tonight, you know, the fonder the memories will be because all
It
you
it
remember is
wasn't
cup
all bad.
wins. No, it wasn't. It
No.
wasn't. And you don't tend to when you think of your previous managers and players, you don't tend to remember all um, the styles and the underlying data and the things that went wrong. You just tend to remember the good bits, don't you? So yeah, I suspect at the minute he'll be a bit laughing stock, and he probably will be for the next few months and that. But yeah, in 10 years' time, when nothing's changed. He'll still be the guy who won two cups in 2 years, and including that mad game against Liverpool in the quarters, and then a really decent performance certainly in the first half of the final in the derby match. So
Yeah, and we have to
yeah,
say, particularly in the final, he got it tactically right, didn't he? On the day.
he did, yeah. But again, it was similar to the Solskjaer. It was a tactical style that wasn't going to be sustainable for bigger things, and he seemed to. That was his problem that he couldn't get it sustained over a long enough period.
Those two games will live long in the memory from that competition last year for United fans. I know you've had incredible glories, but beating your two rivals, one in the final and the other in extra time at Old Trafford in the last minute 4-3, are games that are
Mm,
going to sit with you. But it feels like the whole thing with Ten Hag, it's almost for me, it's not remembered by the quarterfinal or the final for me. It's the semi-final. It's the
yeah, yeah,
semi-final with Coventry that more sums it up. It's like you're 3-0 up and you nearly lost
yeah.
to a
I
team that
know,
was
yeah,
from the Championship from 3-0 up in an FA Cup semi-final and got away with it.
yeah. I mean that summed his era up, and previous eras is that the roof just caved in on him out of nowhere, week after week after week. Even the other night in Portugal, against Porto, you go 2-0 up, and as soon as one goes, you just know that it's becoming 3-2 with a red card. And it happens week after week. And yeah, whether that's all Ten Hag's fault, whether the players take the blame, but ultimately it's Ten Hag's job to make sure that the players don't do that. And if they do it once, they learn from it, and they never learn from it. It happened week after. I don't know how many times you must have conceded 4+ under Ten Hag, but you know, it was a lot.
Do you think this is a strange question? It's quite an awkward one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think Ten Hag could have been successful with the group of leaders and players that you had at your peak, say in the 2000s?
Oh wow.
Just because there was obviously so many leaders and stuff amongst that
Yeah,
team and big personalities. That's all I mean by that.
yeah, maybe. I think it's difficult to tell now because I do wonder as well, and if anyone ever does go back on Ten Hag, or if he ever gets asked in a few years when he can reflect on it, is at what point did he lose his identity and his nerve? Because I think similar to what happened to Van Gaal, I think those early thrashings when Brentford beat us 4-0 in his second match a week after losing to Brighton, it felt, and I know we beat Liverpool the week after. It felt like from then on, he decided then and then he couldn't play the way he wanted to play, and he said that openly. Oh, I can't play like I did it with Ajax. I've got to, and I wonder if he abandoned his ideas so quickly because that's
I
what
think
Van
so.
Gaal did. Van Gaal had a decent-ish start, and then when Leicester slapped us 5-3, everything went out the window, and he just went so defensive and cautious. And I wonder if Ten Hag, if and maybe he doesn't, maybe it's not that, but it did seem that very early on we went from the Liverpool result we got then. It was because we went back to basics. Really, we were gritty and we stuck in the game. And very quickly there was no attempt to lay any of these new principles and this new Dutch style of playing in his way that the Ajax team have played. And I don't really ever think we saw it. And I wonder if he lost his nerve too early. And maybe he didn't. Maybe it was just circumstances and the players, and he didn't have the right midfield set up and all of that. But yeah, and I do wonder, and that's why I don't know what he'd have done with those peak United sides because I don't know if we really understand still what he was trying to do at this one if he'd have had his time
Yeah.
again. Yeah,
I think
because
there's
I think
two. Go on.
I should say that I mean that sort of one in the 2000s, even if you forget the Keane scores one, but even the midfield had Carrick in it. I think Ten Hag would have loved a Carrick type midfielder, and he was never given one. He was given runners and shuttlers, and and that's probably a bit unfair on a Casemiro or a McTominay, but that's what they are. They're not good at having the
I
ball and
guess
receiving it.
I was leading with the question to almost ask you and say, are the players problem here? Because one of the big pushbacks from people, and your crowd, and I'm always kind of keen to stress this to people, yet again have not forced this manager out, right? Have not turned on the manager, have
No,
not turned on Mourinho, Solskjaer, anyone, Van Gaal, anything that went before. They never turned on the manager. And there's obviously a legacy of that because of the long tenure of Ferguson's obviously going to have an impact on that. But one of the pushbacks always when I've said to people they've got to change has been, yeah, but that's not going to fix things. The problems at Manchester United is bigger than just the manager. And I get that. I agree with it. But how responsible are the players here? I guess is what I'm getting at.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see a lot of they're not trying. They don't. I honestly don't think any of those players have packed it on tonight. I honestly think they all liked him. There's been no mentions of any rumours. Nothing ever came out about that. There was the odd stupid. Obviously, he fell out. Not fell out. Rashford was late for training and stupid things like that. But the, I don't think it is that. I just think all of them, the players, I think it's just a really weird bunch of players in the respect that you've got quite a lot of young players trying to establish themselves, trying to work out what they are. You've got quite a lot of older players who are coming to the end of their career or, and then you've got quite a lot of inconsistent players. Anyway, I mean, Rashford's a bit of a lightning rod for all this, and you get, we like to assign things to Rashford, so why he's not playing well. How old's Rashford now? 26, 27. He's just an inconsistent player. I think sometimes we dress it up more than that. I don't think there's always a problem or is it an injury or his personal life. He's just an inconsistent player with who we don't really. I mean, wide left probably his best position, but every 8 months there seems to be, oh, could you play Rashford up front? Can you play him wide right? We're still trying to shove him around the team, and I think that's it. I don't think the players aren't trying for him. I just think it's an inconsistent, underwhelming group, and I think Ten Hag's probably an underwhelming manager, and I think all of that's just combined for this. You know,
It's worth
much
saying,
of
even
this.
within that, right? Rashford has been disappointing, I guess, for 18 months now. But that
Yeah,
incredible streak he had after the World Cup is under Ten Hag, isn't it?
precisely.
It was
So you,
unplayable.
yeah. So if it's Ten Hag's fault now that Rashford's crap, then was he? This is what I'm saying. So was he to blame when he? Well, was he
I
incredible
think
when he
I
was
think
30
what you
goals a
said
season? So
about abandoning strategies, I think is such a key point because there's two things that I couldn't shake over the last 6 months of him. One, I could never shake the feeling of what his Ajax team was, and that's
yeah,
why he got the job, right? I
yeah,
always go the Lucas Moura night and all that, but what people forget was in the first leg, like how good they were, right? We got away with robbery, only losing
yeah, yeah,
1-0 that night. We barely had a kick. They were so much
yeah,
better than us, and that was off the back of winning in Turin and winning 4-1 in the Bernabeu. Like they weren't
yeah,
someone who fluked through it because they had a good draw. He had tough games on the route to get to that semi-final. And yeah, do you know what? Had the sort of collapse that would perhaps now be synonymous with a Manchester United, ironically. But they were a really good side. I never saw your team play like that. At the same time, I also couldn't shake the feeling that I'd had for a long time, probably going back to when we drew 2-2 at your place in January, and we had such an understrength team, but like
mm,
dominated the game in terms of ball possession, letting people like Skip and Højbjerg like dominate the game against you. I'm like, this isn't right. It shouldn't be like this at Old Trafford. And for a long time, I just felt like all of us around you in the table were thinking, I hope you don't get sacked. I hope you don't get sacked.
yeah.
Because it feels like this now, you could go. Like if Ten Hag stayed for the season, I'd be like, yeah, you're no threat to Champions League place. You might go on a run now with a new manager, no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Yeah, I think that opportunity is still there. I think it's early enough in the season. I think probably bar Liverpool. Would you say every other club of that kind is probably underwhelmed this season? Chelsea have had a better season than probably we thought.
Yeah,
But I'd
yeah,
say
you'd
everyone
have to
else.
include Chelsea with the other three. You'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, United aren't going to get near Arsenal, but Arsenal have been underwhelming compared to last season. City have that whole group at the top. Everyone's
Yeah.
dipped a bit. Now, United aren't going to get close enough to some of them, but the chances there to still, I think, early enough in the season to get near that fifth place. I don't think they will because I think there's a lot of good teams up there that'll settle down and go
You're
stay ahead
well
of us. But
capable of finishing fifth, aren't you? And as we
I
said
don't think
several
I would think
times,
so.
I mean, it really does, unless United keep pissing it up the wall in Europe because no one else is, that fifth really is going to be enough this year to qualify for the Champions League. So the opportunity is there for United, Tottenham, Villa, Newcastle, even if the top four pull away. Let's move on anyway. So we think at this stage, at time recording Tuesday evening, it does very much look like it's going to be Sporting Lisbon's Ruben Amorim as the new manager. A cynic might suggest, Gary, that he's been heavily linked with Manchester City in the last couple of weeks and you've decided to act.
Maybe, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure Man City will start leaking that they were never interested in it anyway, and it was Pep Guardiola all the way. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's, whether City were how close they were, but I think aside from City, he's clearly well thought of and been linked to a few clubs in the past, hasn't he? So yeah, hopefully get that done and just get it. If they've made the mind up, let's just get that done and move on because we don't want we don't want it to drag on for too long because there's some winnable matches coming up and there's some important cup matches coming up as well. So yeah, if that's who they decided on, then yeah, let's get it done and yeah, let's hope he is City standard and we nick in there before we're going to get in there.
Happy with the appointment, if that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, I don't watch any Portuguese football, so I can't claim to be, that au fait with him. But he's clearly got a defined style, and obviously he seems done quite well in the
So
Champions
did
League,
Ten
hasn't he,
Hag.
in Europe? I know that's the problem, isn't it? And this is, I suppose, this is what comes back to my point about Ten Hag is hopefully Amorim, this isn't too big for him or whatever it was with Ten Hag, and that when he comes in, he's going to put his style down and he's going to play it no matter what, and whether we have to buy him a few wing backs or whatever in the summer or things like that. But hopefully he gets the back in and hopefully he can get off to a decent start so the noise isn't there. And this is maybe that's where some softer fixtures, shall we call them, might help him. That he doesn't talk himself out of playing his way just because he loses the first two. So yeah, let's see, and hopefully he has a he hits the ground running because there's a lot of the season still to go, and we've still got a lot to go for. So
Yeah, I mean, he's a manager that's been on people's radars quite a bit. He's been linked with pretty much all the top ones when they've been coming around for a couple of years now. He'd rejuvenated the sport in Lisbon that was kind of lagging behind Porto and Benfica over the last
yeah,
couple of decades, and has now kind of usurped him over the last couple of years, doing all right in Champions League as it stands at the moment. They are very much a back three team with wing backs.
mm,
It's a 3-4-3, although to be a bit more technical, it's more of a 3-4-2-1, or you can have the one as I saw in one game against my team in the Champions League a couple of years, a player like Marcus Edwards, who is obviously not a number nine, who will drop in as a 10, so don't even play with an actual nine. Now they've got Victor Gokérez, who's obviously absolutely firing for them, who's a proper number nine. So there's elements within the front line that can change, but it is certainly, as far as I'm aware, always a back three. How do you feel about that? Because other than
right.
Inter, there's no one really playing it. Not in
No, I
terms of
mean,
a starting structure. Everyone
yeah,
moves into it, but no one
yeah,
starts there, basically.
yeah. I mean, I'm not too concerned about what the formation is. I suppose in the first instance is have we got the personnel for that? Because you could probably argue we've got three centre backs, so that's fine if they're all fit. I mean, are Dallo and Luke Shaw anyone's idea of flying wing backs? I don't know really.
I think Dallo could do it.
Well, he needs to wake up if he is because his attacking returns aren't anything, are they? And if he if he's going to play a wing back, he'd need to up them. We can never get a left back fit for Toffee at the
I
minute
mean, I was going
either.
to say Luke,
So
Luke Shaw, we know can do it, but can't get him fit, and he's actually been announced.
precisely,
So he's had another setback, hasn't he, Luke Shaw?
yeah. Well, so and as good as he is, and some of his injuries have obviously not been his fault. He's had some horrific injuries, but equally, you've never been able to hang your hat on him. So if Amorim does come in, we are going to need. Well, we definitely need a new left wing back. That's you know that's for certain. And I'd argue you'd need a right back, but you know you might be able to turn Dallo into something. So yeah, but if that's his style and that's how he wants to play, and he believes he can get us winning, then I'm not bothered if he plays three at the back or six at the back. But
Yeah, I would describe like my team, as I said, played them in the Champions League a couple of years ago.
yeah,
And they were good. They beat us 2-0 at home, and it was
yeah,
1-1
yeah.
at our place. So, they did well across the two games. Very competitive. We took Pedro Porro off them. Um, System wise, quite similar to Antonio Conte's system, and actually the two teams cancelled each other out a little bit because of that. But they are way more aggressive off the ball. Conte's team's a lot more passive, I think.
Mm,
Amorim's teams will come and press and be quite aggressive off the ball. So that has pros, but then I also think, like we've seen it so many times, where you go and press and get it wrong and you get destroyed. Maybe having a back three in place, therefore, at that moment will help. Maybe.
yeah, I mean, I think some of the pressing though, you wonder if how coached some of that pressing is because often it just seems to be Fernandez running around like a lunatic and nobody else following him. So then it looks like Fernandez is the one that's doing it for himself when you can't work out the pattern. And I mean, when Ranić came in for his cameo, he loved to press and he seemed to abandon that after a couple of weeks as well. So now I know that there's a slight turnover in um, personnel since Ranić, but yeah, whether you can get Rashford, Hoyland, Garnacho, you should be able to get them to press. So hopefully, if that's what he wants to do, he gets it in. But yeah, hope it's a bit more
My
organised than it
instinct
has been.
is that Bruno Fernandes becomes one of the two in central midfield. That's my instinct. I
Yeah,
might have a completely wrong read of that, but I think with what you've got at the moment, yeah, I see it being Fernandes and one other in the middle, possibly Mino if it's got three centre backs in place behind it,
yeah,
and then the front three on top of that. Yes, you're clearly going to need some work in the wing back area. It might be that in the short term, someone like Garnacho might have to play a wing back role. That's a
mm,
possibility. But as I said,
yeah,
he's more aggressive system-wise, it can look similar to say Conte's, but he's much more aggressive about it. And actually, to be fair, let's remember Conte had played, it got good returns out of people like Victor Moses and Marcos Alonso playing wing back, right? Who were
Yeah,
both
yeah.
better offensively than defensively. I must stop comparing him to Conte because that's not true. It's only just how it looks system-wise, trying to define for people. No, it seems like a good appointment. It feels like one. I'm obviously looking at you as a competitor, Gary, and yeah, I'm alerted, aren't I? I'm alerted to like, oh right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're back in the game. But back in the game is not really what Manchester United want to be. I understand there is a target behind the scenes to win the Premier League in 2028. Is that what the remit is here? And is that acceptable with where it's at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's realistic, isn't it? I mean, it's probably well, I don't know. You can't ask for anything earlier than that. I don't think. I mean, let's put aside whatever might happen to City. They aren't going to disappear anytime soon. Arsenal aren't, Liverpool aren't. So the idea that we would win it any earlier than that from this start now, no matter how good Amorim is, or how good Ineos, if Ineos turn it around and pull the finger out, you're not, you're not going to turn into title contenders that quickly with this from this standing start. So 2028, yeah, I think most United fans would snap your hand off if you said, that's how much longer it's going to take. So yeah, I think that's about right.
I think you're 100 to 1 for the title this year, Gary. You gonna have a few quid on?
Yeah, if you lend me some, yeah, I'm not having any of my own money on it, but if you've got some to lend me, I'll have that 100 to 1.
I think it's the same price to go down, by the way, mate. I guess the top three already look out of sight, don't they? And you're
Yeah,
looking for fourth, fifth if Chelsea sustain what they look like they might be capable of doing. And then I guess competing with my team, Villa, maybe Newcastle, Brighton for fifth, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, I think fifth's where it is. I'd say that Chelsea are more likely to finish fourth than Villa. I would think just because Villa's Champions League run. And then yeah, if we can, like I say, if we can hit the ground running from now, there's no reason we can't compete with for that fifth spot because Tottenham probably underwhelmed. Would you say Villa not
Oh, yeah,
underwhelmed,
I
but
mean Villa
they're
are doing
struggling.
well again.
They're doing well, but they're going to have a lot to contend with soon. And from a United point of view, you'd hope it catches up with them. So Newcastle look a bit undercut to me as well. So I think the chance for fifth's there, but it's got to start now. Really, it
It's the
can't
one that
be.
will be the most consistent. Will end up getting
Yeah,
it. And at the moment, you probably trust
yeah.
Villa actually more than any of
I
the
think you
others.
probably would. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you would. Yeah, especially once they get to. I say that about the Champions League, but they probably only need another win or two, and then they might be able to start resting players and things like that, and coming back to it in March. So,
the the problems at United though, it's such a drop off from what you and I grew up with in terms of
mm,
what the club regularly did. And I saw a statistic this morning that in Sir Alex Ferguson's years in this century, so 2000 to 2013, you'd never finish lower than 75 points. But in the
mm,
years since, you'd only beaten that once. So his
mm,
worst season over 13 has only been beaten once in like
yeah.
the 10 or 11 seasons since. So it's not a Ten Hag problem. It's a problem that's been going on for a while. And it was always going to be really difficult to obviously follow Ferguson. But has the job become a little bit of a poison chalice in a way now? And I've seen a few people suggesting that, almost like you're damned to fail in this job.
Well, I think the more people that fail in it, it becomes self-perpetuating, doesn't it? The owners haven't helped, and the rise of City um, hasn't helped either. I mean, they'd only won one title by the time Ferguson left, and obviously they've won however many since. So yeah, but I don't buy that you're guaranteed to fail there, and you're always going to have a decent amount of money to spend. Um, you've got what biggest crowd in the country still. Usually a decent set of players. Now you can all argue whether some of them are right at that elite level, some of them clearly aren't, but they're not a bad set to start with, are they, as a starting point? So I don't think so. I think I think we've just had a lot of managers, maybe just the timing with the managers. Mourinho, top manager, but by the time we had him, as it's turned out now, if you look at his career since, it's probably just off his peak,
I've
wasn't
seen
it, for
him
Mourinho?
begging for bottom half teams now. I've seen him.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. We had Ranić for whatever reason. Ten Hag had just spoken about the Solskjaer experiment that was a stopgap that turned into a 3-year
Van
thing.
Gaal is almost forgotten now, isn't it? As is
Van
David
Gaal, yeah,
Moyes.
but Van Gaal, because again, I think he lost his bottle of how he wanted to play, and just couldn't turn it around. But so I think it's a multitude of things. But I don't think a United manager is destined to fail anymore. It's just getting it. Someone will get it right at some point, won't they?
The first thing that needs to happen is you have to make people fear playing you again first, mate. That's got to be the first thing. Like it's felt like that for a long time. Well, long time now, all of us have felt like we could go up there and get something, even at Old Trafford. And you never used to think that.
Yeah,
No one did, other than sides you might have been competing with for the title. You just didn't. If you could get out your place with a draw, it was like one of the best results of your season. Now everyone's going up and thinking if we get it tactically right, you can do things like say like what Bournemouth did in December and turn you over.
yeah, but I mean that's not a magic switch for that, is it? That's
No.
something that just comes. We've just got to have a sustained way of playing that people know is what it is and what it's going to do to them. And you've got to string, 10, 10 match unbeaten runs and 15s, and try and build it up and try and. The other thing is try and what's happened as well recently, especially since Solskjaer left, is we don't seem to slaughter teams anymore. We win enough matches, but when do we ever put fives and sixes past teams and
No, it's like if
things
you're
like that?
involved in a game where a team gets slaughtered, it's normally you.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been on the end of fours and fives and sevens a lot recently, but
I mean, but
I,
I think your expected goal difference last season had you ranked about 15th.
I
Across,
know.
that's
Yeah,
across the whole season. That's
I
madness,
know.
mate.
I know. I thought, well, did we finish with a negative goal difference last season in the end as well? I think.
You conceded more shots last season than the Derby team that finished on 11 points, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. So that's it. But you'd kind of forgive that kind of thing if it was like 4-3s and 5-5s and
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. We lost 4-0 to Palace, but the week later we beat someone 6-1. It was none of that. We were winning enough matches to finish third or eighth last season in
That
cup matches, but it
that
was always
The Palace game, if you'd not been in the cup final, he was gone, wasn't he? There was loads of talk afterwards, like, should you just get someone else in to do the FA Cup final? And obviously, ultimately, it was the right decision for that to
yeah.
obviously stick with him.
I know, but
Yeah.
there's been so many of those results like that where you just think that's got to be the final straw, and
I'd say what I
it
would
never
say,
was.
certainly with Amorim, I'd be very surprised if it goes down the route where you and I are sitting here in two years' time and it's like, I can't believe we just lost 4-0, whatever, and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'd hope
Someone,
not.
Sean Norton, bookmark that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And come back to
yeah.
it one
We'll
day.
come. Yeah.
Um, and that's when we'll next speak to you. Is obviously we're going to actually preview your game against Everton on Clash of Correspondence before game week 13. But there's a few more good fixtures before that. I must do a little bit of fantasy before we finish because following Chelsea this weekend, there's Leicester at home, Ipswich away before that game against Everton. And then, sure, yeah, then your next two away games are Arsenal City away. But it's Forest at home before that. And there's Bournemouth. And there's Wolves. There's Newcastle at home. There's a good sustained run. But before I talk United assets, I want to ask you about my FPL captain this week, Gary, because he's bust on Cole Palmer at the moment. Do I bottle this now?
Well, that is my captain as it stands as well. I don't know. I honestly don't know. There's two ways to spin it, isn't it? If it ends up that we've got Van Nistelrooy for the interim, I think the atmosphere would have been good anyway, even if Ten
Yeah,
Hag
yeah,
was
yeah,
still
yeah.
there.
The
It's been
atmosphere would be different.
half four, and the clocks have gone forward, so it would have been dark by then as well. So it's almost a night game. Um, probably be pissing wet rain. So I think the atmosphere would have been unbelievable anyway. So there was always a chance that we'd have turned it on because we've done
Yeah.
that in big games before. So if it is Van Nistelrooy and he whips the crowd up and we know we've got Amorim coming in next week or whatever, then yeah, you can spin that and say, oh yeah, you don't want to captain Palmer. The flip of it is, you know, Palmer's the best footballer in the league. He was the top FPL scorer last season. What is he? The second highest scoring this season, and he's playing the 14th best team in the country. So, I think, yeah, I think it's one of them. It's just how you feel, isn't it? Once it gets Saturday, if you captain him and it goes wrong, I don't think you've done the wrong thing. And if you don't captain him and you miss out on a haul, I don't think you've done the wrong thing either. It's
Well,
50-50.
I, I,
I don't know where I'll land with it.
I think for me, it's more I haven't got an alternative that's better, Gary. So I might just be
No,
going
I
with
mean,
that anyway.
yeah, well, I was half thinking of Cunha, but yeah, there's possible injury doubts about him. Is that I've
There
read
has been
today.
some
So
speculation today that an open training session, he went and had a sit down, had ice on his knees.
yeah, so whether
Doesn't
that
sound great.
doesn't sound great, doesn't it's probably too early to start speculating that. But yeah, if I don't captain Palm, I don't really know where I'd go. So yeah, I don't.
Watkins against my team, maybe.
Yeah, but then it's a similar
Yeah, it is.
it's a similar kind of captain, isn't he? I don't think it's a. I think if you're not, I think if I don't captain Palm, I'd want to captain someone a less obvious one, but that's got a really obvious easy home game.
Yeah,
So
all the good ones like Boomo again, but Fulham away don't feel great for
yeah, you don't want
captaincy.
to captain that, do you? So that's why I thought at least Cunha's got it's Palace at home, isn't it? And then Southampton on the week after. You thought you could do it if you needed to, but
Yeah, I'm probably more taking
yeah,
the
I
view
don't
at the moment
know.
that you absolutely what you say about the atmosphere is so relevant. Because it'll be
Yeah,
positive vibe now. Probably just looking at it from an FPL lens and thinking, could you go a bit like over the top for the first 20 minutes, throw shit and then it calms down and the adrenaline kind of fades out a bit. And tactically
yeah,
they're good now, Chelsea. And
yeah, yeah,
you might not be ready for that. So I
yeah.
probably am still gonna do that. I bought Garnacho
Hmm.
last week, Gary, in prep for this stretch, thinking that Ten Hag would be in charge, actually. It's a good price, isn't it, at 6.2?
Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was a good price at 6.5. So now that he's gone down a bit, it's even better, isn't it? If you've been off him earlier on in the season.
Clearly, we'll sit here this time next week and people will want to buy a United player, I think, even irrespective of what happens Sunday, just because those three fixtures afterwards and then the potential for the manager bounce. You can definitely see you getting 9 points from them three games, mate.
I could see, yeah, I could easily see us getting four or something and some mad defeat. But yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter about the wins, does it? It's just can we start racking some goals up? Because if we carry on at this rate of less than a goal a game, then it doesn't really matter who we're playing. So yeah, I think Garnacho at 6-2 could be a punt. I mean, if it is Amorim, where would he play though? Would that put anyone
Yeah,
off? I
well, I'm
don't know.
hoping it would be kind of the left 10.
Yeah, but yeah, well, we'd have to see, wouldn't we? But if he ends up playing left wing back, you probably for a
No, no,
team
no.
that's tied in the
You'd have
feet,
to go. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
And
I think if you've
I
already
do think that's a possibility.
yeah, so I think that if you've already got him, then you've got a real decision to make. If you haven't got him, then you can probably
I think
can
particularly as
probably
well
wait a
because
week, can't you?
but if Martinez is obviously fit and available to play the left-sided centre back, we've obviously seen him play left back. We know he can play that position as well. So if Garnacho does get caught out and you have to shovel along where Dallow's the right wing back on the other side, you can see it funneling in where you could take the chance maybe with Garnacho on that left side. It could easily be though, he just goes Dallow and Matswari to start with
Yeah,
till he gets what he wants. Might also be a way of
yeah.
looking at it. Have you got any at the moment, Gary?
United players, no.
What are
I
you
don't
going
think I've
to
had
do?
any all season. Well, I'm certainly not doing anything this week, so that's that one. And then yeah, I think the week after, that's the Ipswich game, isn't it, on the Sunday? So um,
Leicester first.
yeah, oh Leicester first, sorry, Ipswich after the break, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I think get to next week, see if it is Amorim, and see if we get any kind of clue as to who might play where, and then make a decision. But I
Yeah,
think I'd
it's
probably
gonna make it really really. Do we think there's a chance Amorim manages the team on Sunday at this stage or not?
well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends how quick they can get anything done, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
signed off. I mean, even if they get it done, let's say by Thursday, which seems ambitious, But then what's going to do come in on Friday and say, right, this is my team, this is what we're doing, or we're going to need to speak to people and speak to Van Nistelrooy and say, right, well, we've been playing four at the back for the last 50 years. You've only had one session with the guys. Are we going to go straight? I don't know. Sunday seems a bit ambitious, really. I mean, the deal's not done yet, is it? So the idea that
No, but
managers on Sunday
he looks
seems
like Sporting at
unlikely.
there's a
Yeah,
compensation fee to be paid. The ITKs are
yeah,
saying United are going to pay it. Sporting aren't going to kick up a fuss. We think Amorim
no,
is happy to do the job. He does sound like it's
yeah.
nearly over the line at
Whether
this
it'll be one of
stage.
them where he's sat in the crowd with the big wigs watching, I don't know. But yes, because what would be useful fancy wise if he did have the team on Sunday, and you wouldn't want to buy him anyway, probably. But at least you can see what the formation was, and then you'd know what to do for
Yeah, I
that
guess
run. But
you have got a Europa game next Thursday, which would be
yeah,
quite handy, wouldn't it? So we've got to presume at this stage he's going to be in charge for that. I think, like, particularly with Fernandez and Garnacho, I might have a wrong read on this, but I think there's a little bit of confliction in terms of where they might end up playing. And I think they're the two that people will most be drawn to for natural reasons. I know the Bruno
mm,
Fernandez jokes, but the underline does suggest something might
yeah,
be
yeah.
there. And we know his capability. Garnacho, I've been quite high on, even when you've been bad. It probably means if you wanted to pump one offensively, the one you'd almost be sure on at the moment feels like Hoyland.
I know, but no one's got a spot for Hoyland after with all the
What, Dominic
this.
Solanke owners don't have a spot for Rasmus Højlund? They probably do, mate.
Yeah, but you know, it's a punt. There's Jackson, there's Wisser, there's Cunha, there's Watkins.
Haaland.
No one's got Ireland surely, but there's too many. There's too many. I think you could. I mean, Holland been unbelievable punt for those three games, wouldn't he? But I mean, what you just said about Marcus Edwards, though, is there a chance that Amorim for a Xerxes type who's coming back comes back towards the midfield and unlikely I
Yeah,
would say because
or he could
he's
use
not a goal
Rashford
threat.
there.
Well, he could use Rashford there, yeah, because it's been a while since we had that debate about whether Rashford could play centre
Rashford's
forward.
not
So
going
we
to
need
play
to have
wing
it.
back. I know that.
Well, that's it. I mean, where does Rashford fit into if we do go 3-4-3? Because he's not a centre forward. So yeah,
No. Interesting. Defensively, would you have a preference?
whoever's the cheapest.
So
So
would
the
probably
is
say
it?
like Martinez, 4.4,
Oh,
probably.
Martinez, yeah, mate, yeah,
You
yeah.
wouldn't pay the extra
But
for Dallo or
I wouldn't. I mean, we've seen on Sunday what Dallow's like offensively. That it's just never materialised, has it, in goals and assists. So the clean sheet numbers haven't been that bad this season. So, but would if we new manager trying to embed a new system, it could bring a lot of defensive returns, but it could also take some settling down and teething
yeah,
trouble.
I
So
can see
yeah,
because of that. I don't think anybody's really high on any of your defensive assets. I wonder if Anana might become quite popular, particularly for the wild card crowd over the
yeah,
next few
maybe,
weeks. I wonder, yeah, if people could, if you're not sure. I mean, again, it's a position you can be sure on, right? In terms of what you're going to
yeah.
get, he's going to play in goal. So I wonder if people might want to have a look at Anana. Actually, we'll be discussing Clayton's wild card tomorrow because he's on it at the moment. I wonder if he'll be looking at any Manchester United assets. Gary, thank you very much for your time, mate. Good luck for the rest of the season. Anything you want to plug before we finish?
No, no, thank you.
Good luck, my friend. Thanks, buddy. Cue
Cheers.
music, please. Man shot.